Resume recording. Okay, so we're actually going to be playing a bit more inside of After Effects. We're going to be taking a couple of things like what we did last class and adding some things, little twists, that sort of thing. There is John. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is I just made a new composition. I labeled it preset, so I just went new composition, new comp. Kept all of these nice defaults. We just want to make sure we're at 24 frames a second. Your duration, about 10-ish seconds. If you have 30, that's okay. And then we want that HD TV 1080, just like always. And I just named it presets. So we're going to be talking a little bit about how to move text and animate text inside of After Effects today. So I'm going to go ahead and create some text. So I'm just going to select my text tool, click where I would like my text to be, and just type in some words. So hello there. I'm just going to put it about in the center. So when we are thinking about using presets with text, there's a couple things we want to keep in mind. Pretty much any text preset we use is default is a little bit boring. So when we actually get them in here, we'll take a look at how to make them a little less so. But to access these presets, there's two ways you can go about it. You can come up here to animation and browse presets. It's a nice quick way to do it. Or you can come over here and under your effects and presets bar, you can see that there's these little three horizontal lines, a little hamburger menu. You can click on that and also browse presets from here. So if you like to go up to the menu, it's animation, browse presets. If you like little shortcut quick ways, it's the same thing. You just click on these little hamburgers and browse presets. Now, when you do this, what it's going to do is actually open up Bridge. If you don't have Bridge, you can still use the presets. You just won't be able to view them beforehand. And what you should get when it stops glitching out, please, no, I don't care, is you should get something that looks like this. All Bridge is a fancy version of your File Explorer system. But it's really good for previewing things, taking a look at different things, including these nice presets. So I know if I wanted to go to a specific preset, I could follow this little command chain in here in my File Explorer and get to this file folder. Now, since we're going to be talking about text, we're actually going to go into this text one here, but all of these other ones in here, definitely take a look at. They're pretty fun. There's a whole bunch of neat ones in there. So I'm going to dive into text real quick. And these are all of the text presets that you can play with inside of After Effects. Now, I'm just going to pick one that I know is kind of fun to play with, but definitely dive into any of these that you think might be neat. So lights and optical. These are all different types of light and optic presets. So if I click on Sonar Ping just once, we don't want to double click quite yet. If I click once, over here in my preview tab, I can see how that will look. If I'm like, well, maybe this fluorescent light might give me the look I'm looking for, or maybe shadows. Silhouettes, maybe. Pretty much all of these presets in through here are going to work in different ways. So for now, I'm going to go into organic because I know that there's one in here that's quite fun. I'm going to do this wheat field right here. It's one of my favorite presets just because it's fun. You can also do like bounce, diagonal, helix. Maybe we'll do double helix today. Now, once we've found the preset that we like, all you have to do to apply it is double click inside the Bridge window on the one you want, so long as your text is selected. If you don't have anything selected, it'll guess at which layer you want. So you do want to make sure that your text is here. Now, if you don't want or don't have bridge, you can also come up here to animation and browse here or apply a preset. Now you will have to know where that preset's located. So I would have to go all the way through these files to get to the one I want. Or like I said, inside of bridge here, if I know I want this double helix, I can double click on it and it'll automatically put that double helix on my text.
Question. So you just pulled up Bridge? Like you just pulled it up, or did you pull it up from inside of After Effects?
Say that one more time. You're very quiet for some reason.
Did you just pull up Bridge through After Effects, or was it pulled up like through the actual program by itself, like separately?
So when you click on these little, the hamburger menu here, and you do that browse presets, it should automatically open Bridge. If it doesn't, I'll hold this up here for a second. This is the location where you would be able to find all these presets. Just in case. I'll hover this here for a second. Okay.
Okay.
Other questions so far?
Can you show that one more time?
Yes.
Sorry.
You're good. So I have my hello there text right here. I've got it selected. I'm going to come over here to the little triple hamburger menu over by effects and presets, or you can come up here to animation and browse presets. And I'm going to click that, browse presets. It's going to open Bridge, which mine's already open, so it's not going to take any loading time. It's going to take me to this presets window right here. And all the ones we're looking for text-based animation are going to be under the text section. Inside of here, you can pick any of them that you like. I'm going to do, let's go back into organic. And instead of doing that double helix, we'll do ocean tide. And then to put this on your text, you want to make sure your text is selected. If this is the one that you want, you just double click on it and it'll automatically put this on your text. You can definitely stack different presets on one text.
Is there a way, this is probably asking like a way too far ahead question, but is there a way to make custom versions of this?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, there are. So here's my preset. To me, that's really fast and not that fun on the text that I've chosen. So there's a couple ways that we can change this. Like I said, pretty much anytime you're using a preset, when you're using a preset, you want to make sure you change it from default. They're very boring. They're very easy to tell that it's the default preset. Even if you're not going to change it far, you still want to change it up a little bit. So up here, I have my frequency, the period, and the magnitude. Just by changing these, sliding them around a little bit, I can change how it interacts. So if I want the frequency to be a lot lower, maybe like 3, it'll be a little slower. But I can also open up my text itself. And under text, there's my path options, more options, which is the stroke and fill. But I also have this new animate, pose, scale, opacity. So if I open this up, this is a new effect that's been added to this specific text based off of this frequency, period, and magnitude. So these are just individual things that you can find in your effects and presets. So I could even search for frequency, period, slider, magnitude, and add them individually to get that look that I'm looking for. But I can also use this preset to get to this and then change things. But now I can also change how far I want this position, opacity, and scale to be, as well as our tracking amount. So if I'm like, I really want this opacity to be a lot higher, so it doesn't disappear as much, maybe I want it to disappear a lot more as it fades in and out. You just want to change things a little bit so that they're not as boring and as default. So if I didn't want them to go super far, so if I wanted to go more up and down, I could change this. We just want to play with how the words are interacting without doing too much other than playing with the preset itself. And again, like I said, you can mix and match actual presets. So if I wanted to add like 2 others, because maybe I like that double helix flip, but I like how this one moves back and forth with the opacity, you can combine those. And then you can also come over here to effects and presets and look for individual versions in here. Most of them will be under distort right here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make another new composition. Composition, new comp. You can also click the little button in your project window right here next to the rocket ship. And I'm going to call this follow. Same thing. I'm going to have 24 frames a second, the HDTV 1080. My duration at 10. That's pretty good. Tell it OK. Now this one's going to work very similar to how we did the shapes following that path last class. So I'm going to go ahead and make some text. I'm going to say it's alive. I'm going to make it move. You can make it say whatever you like. And from here, with this layer of our text selected, we're going to make a mask, but we're not going to make a full mask. We're just going to make a line. So I'm going to come up here to my pen tool, and I'm going to make a half jagged, half hooping line. You can make all jagged. You can make all curved. I'm going to do about half and half. The main point with this is currently I don't want to connect my endpoints, because if I do this, it's going to remove my text completely. And what we're actually going to do is we're going to put our text onto this line. So I have my line here. And when I open up my It's Alive text, you can see I have my text and my masks. And when I open up my masks, you see I got that path, feather, opacity, expansion. When I open up my text, I've got that source. I've got my path options and more options. So normally, what we did last class is we right-clicked on this path options and on this path, and we changed this here to a Bezier path. Instead of doing that, I'm actually going to take this paths drop-down menu and change this just to mask 1, because I have my mask here. I only have 1, so it's mask 1. And when I do that, it's going to put my text on that path. Any questions just to this point? Just make sure everyone's with me. Awesome.
So all you did was just make a mask like with a line, and then you just can't. It's yeah.
Yep. All the way
Okay.
flat.
Cool beans.
Yeah. So now I have my path and my text is on it, but I want my path to start with my words all the way off screen, travel across my screen, and go off on the other side. So what I'm going to do is take this first margin, and I'm just going to click and drag these blue letters or these blue words here, and drag it so that all of my text is off screen. So it's going to go into the negative. And then on this first frame, I'm just going to make sure I keyframe that first margin at that negative 369. And then I'm going to decide with my time slider when I think, or how long I want it to take to travel all the way across. But I think it's going to take maybe about 4 or 5 seconds. And then I'm then going to take this first margin and drag it all the way across so it goes all the way and ends off screen. Now, if I go to about the middle, the way you can tell this first margin is it has this little like hat looking thing at the very beginning of our text. That's the first margin. That's where it's pushing from this side. Your last margin, if I change this, we're not going to see really too much. But your last margin, come on, do something, if I can show. Your last margin is where is this point ending on your curve. So if I take this, about here, well, this curve's not going to work. Pretty much what it does, it says, hey, I want my text to stop at a certain point and reverse in the opposite direction. So when you have this happen, you can now have the opposite text. So your text will mirror itself when it crosses that last margin line. So now I get something that looks like this. So that's pretty cool. But if you notice, every time it goes over or hits a curve, my text kind of crunches in on itself. We can fix this by coming over to that animate button that's right here. So you know how last class we had that little content and add? This is the same thing, except it's under text and it's called animate. So I can right click on that and there's all these different things I can do in here to animate my text. And the one we're looking at is actually this tracking, which does something kind of similar to what we did in the other tracking lecture, except instead of tracking a motion, it's tracking the distance between two parts of your animation. So now, if I scroll down a little bit here, I now have this new animator right here. So now we can see our endpoint. It's right here. This tracking type, if I take a look at this, I have before and after. So if I say I want my tracking amount to be maybe about 15, when it hits these curves, I can change the depth of how far do they hit from each other. So really far, it's going to try to not overlap them quite as much. It's changing the kerning of your text. And you can keyframe this. So now if I take a look at this last margin, it should do the thing. It does not. You worked perfectly fine last margin, last class. I don't know why you're not working now. Oh. There's also this range selector. So if you're like, hey, I want my start to be closer to this L for alive, I can shift that offset and the tracking amount from this point. So you can keyframe this for specific spots, specific trouble areas. We also have an end. Where do you want that to end based off of the text you have? So if I want it to start here, push that out. I can keyframe this based off of where I am to keep those texts from overlapping. It's a little tedious, specifically because all of my letters are capitals, but it would look quite nice. And all of that's keyframeable. Now, other things to be aware of inside of here, you also have these more options. That's your fill and strokes. But we also have this reverse path button here under your path options. If I turn that off, it'll actually just mirror it so it's underneath your mask. So should you have multiple different texts interacting with this mask, you could have like a mirror image going across. You can also do perpendicular to path. If I turn that on, it's going to try to keep everything a little bit more upright. If I turn that off, it's going to keep everything perfectly perpendicular to the path. So it makes it look a little bit more interesting. You can keyframe that off and on. And then you can also turn on or off force alignment, which pretty much says, hey, go across the entire curve here. This is where that last margin will really come in handy. So I can pull this down and be like, hey, I really want this last margin here. And it'll kind of skip around and do some weird stuff. Questions at all about curve, text on a curve, text on a path? All right. So I'm going to make another composition, but I'm going to show you what it's going to look like. So what we're going to do next is we're actually going to make some outlines to some text. It's actually not as difficult as you would think. I'm going to make a new composition. I'm going to just call this outline. Again, make sure you're calling it whatever you would like if you want something different. So I got this called outline. I've got my frame rate still same thing, 24 frames a second, HD TV 1080 at 24. About 10 seconds is going to be pretty good. I'm going to tell it OK. And I'm going to go ahead and let's make some new text. I'm going to say it's an outline. When you're doing this, anything that you do when you want to turn it into an outline, you want to make sure everything about your text is exactly how you want it before you turn it into the outline overall that animates. So I'm going to highlight my text here. Inside of this paragraph setting, I'm going to make sure it's in the middle because I want it centered. I want to make sure that my text type is the one I want. I know mine is called Aroni. It's at the very bottom. You want to make sure the size is the size you want. Do you want your outline? Because we do want to make this only have an outline. We don't want any fill. So I'm going to just invert this. But whatever outline color you choose, you want to make sure that you choose it now. So for you guys, I'm going to do maybe like a bright pink. I'm going to make this stroke a little bit bigger so it's a little bolder. I'm just going to put this in the center and maybe make outline itself just a little bit bigger than the other one. So I have it's an outline with a pink stroke. Now you can do whatever color stroke you want. You can also keyframe the stroke to do different things and be different colors at any given point. But for me right now, this is kind of what I'm going for. And what we want to do is also very similar to when I showed you guys how to take the Illustrator file into After Effects. So I'm going to click on my It's an Outline, and I'm going to right click and go to Create and change this to Shapes from Text. You can also go up here to Layer, Create Shapes from Text. Now I'm not going to show it to you guys, but I am going to point out it's a thing. Right here, I also have masks from text. So for whatever reason, if you wanted to create a mask out of a video or any objects or pictures that you have that's text, this is the quick way to do that. So I'm going to go create shape from text. It'll hide my original It's an Outline, and I now have It's an Outline outlines. Questions to this point?
Not any yet.
Awesome. So what we're going to do now with this new shape layer is we're going to open this up, open up the contents, and you'll see that each individual letter here is its own little layer. So I can select them. But what we're going to do is inside here under contents, I'm going to hit add, just like we did a minute ago. And instead of adding that empty group or anything like that. We're just going to add another trim path, just like what we did with the shapes that moved yesterday, last class. I'm going to add a trim path. And depending on how you change that start, end, and offset will change how this shifts. So I'm going to keyframe at the start to be 100%. For this, remember 100% is invisible, 0 is visible. So I'm going to start completely invisible. I'm going to go to about 3, maybe 4 frames or 3 seconds. I'm going to take this to 0. So it becomes visible. And when I hit play, it's slowly going to show my stuff here. Now, you can also take your offset and change where you want specific parts of the text to start first. You can also change your end if you only want little parts of your text to show at any given point. So let's say at the very beginning, I keyframe my end here, and from here, keyframe my end just a little bit less. So what's going to happen is we're only going to get little parts of our text. So you can play around with that. It's not too bad. I'm going to erase that end though. Then at 100%. Now if I take that to 0, it now does the opposite. It erases it. So depending on what you're looking for, you may have to change this end to 0 or 100. Now, oh, hold on. I added keyframes here. There we go. So now you might be wondering, how on earth did I do this where they all come in individually? It's actually very simple. All you have to do is come up here and make a whole bunch of duplicates, one for each individual outline that you want. Offset them by a specific size. So if I want its and to be individual words, and then each one of my outline to be its own, you just offset them by when you want them to come in. And then go through, so I know for this first one, I want it to be it, because I want that to start first. I would then come through, open this up, delete everything from an outline, and just hit the delete key. It'll remove them, so I only have its. So now right here, its is the only thing visible. For the second one, I'm going to do the same thing. Open my contents, remove its, only leave a and, remove outline. And then outline pops in, and I would have to go through with each individual letter all the way through till I have the look I'm going for. So it's not too bad, just takes a little bit of time. You can also change that trim path keyframe per letter by doing this. You can also go into your graph editor right here and change any keyframes you might have. So if I open up this first one, this trim path, if I click on my start, you can see my graph. If I right click and go to this keyframe assistant, you can change how your keyframes are interacting. So I can ease it in, ease out. I can also take my curve, now it's got little tangents. And I get a slightly different animation because of those keyframes. Questions at all about creating the outline?
How'd you pull up
Say
the
one more
graph?
time.
The
Oh, the graph is this
How'd you
little
pull up
button
the graph?
right here.
Yeah.
So you can toggle your graph editor right here.
Okay.
You just want to make sure whatever you have keyframes on is what's selected, and that's what will show up in your graph editor. And you can see since I changed the second keyframe, it now looks like a little hourglass instead of the standard diamond. That just means that I've changed how this keyframe interacts with that keyframe assistant. If I change it to ease out, it'll act just a little bit different. So I'm just going to hide all of these ones that we just made. And now I have come to the end pretty much of the lecture, give or take. We don't run away quite yet. So this is kind of an example of how your final is going to work. We're going to be starting the final today. That does mean there's a couple of weeks left of class, but there's a reason I'm giving you so long to work on the final. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be doing a kinetic typography. You're going to be taking text and audio, blending them together to make a really cool video that's about 30 to 60 seconds long. So here's an example. Please tell me, you guys online, if you cannot hear my screen. You should be able to, but if you can't, let me know. So if I hit play, Professor Livingston kindly recorded this audio and set this little part of the demo up. I need to enable audio. So I've got this waveform here.
This is some audio that I recorded for Kinetic text. This is some audio that I recorded for Kinetic text.
So this is a very basic version of what your final is going to look like. Now, when you're doing this, you want to make sure you get your audio. I highly recommend not doing music, but if you're going to do music, talk to me first. I won't tell you no, but we'll look and see how feasible it will be based off your time. A lot of people that tend to do the music or like pre-recorded like rap songs, hard rock, soft rock, the timing seems to be a little difficult. But if you're going to do one of those, let me know. We'll talk about it. We'll see how feasible it is. I have noticed people get better results with monologues, with movie scenes, all that sort of thing. I will still show you some examples of music. But if you are going to go music route, just let me know first. I won't tell you no, but I do want to hear what you're going to do. I want to talk feasibility with you. Now, how you're going to do this is you're going to set up your background, you're going to set up your camera, your virtual camera and all that. You're going to have your audio. I highly recommend WAV files and not MP3s. For some reason, I've noticed the WAV files tend to react better inside of After Effects than MP3s. There's plenty of converters online that you can find that are free for your audio. And what you're going to do, first step, is figure out, one, the audio clip, of course, but two, you're going to figure out where the timing is for each of your words that is spoken inside of your audio with the timeline. So I know on here, this starts on this frame and the audio ends about on this frame, right? Is starts there, ends about there, some starts here, ends about here, audio there. You want to go through and time out where your words are starting and ending with markers. So if I come over here to, let's say, Kinetic. If I wanted to create a marker to write down when I would want Kinetic on this layer, I'm going to do it actually on the main timeline. So I'm just going to deselect. But you would want to do it on your actual audio part. You would hit the star key on your number pad. You can also right click on the timeline and there should be a markers spot. And from here, I'm just going to double click on my little marker and I'm going to say, hey, this marker is Kinetic. This is that word that's being spoken. I'm going to say it lasts maybe, I don't know, 15 frames and hit OK. Now that was a little long for Kinetic, so I might have to listen to it a couple times, click the end of this marker and trim it down to the correct length. This is the hardest, most tedious part of this entire project. And if you do it quickly, and correctly, the rest of your project will be easy. The rest of it's just visual aids and all of that. This is the hardest part. You do want to go through and manually put in all of the words on your timeline.
This is
Now, when you're working on this, I highly recommend using pre-comps. Pre-comps or pre-compositions are those things that we used in tracking. Remember when we right-clicked and added the solid and like pre-composed that so we could change out the original solid and put our picture in there, or our meme, or our GIF, or whatever we used? It's that same method, except instead of putting in that, we're doing text. So what I'm going to do is we're going to do a little demo just on how I would personally do this last little section, because as you notice, my audio here and my texted stops at recorded.
this is some audio that I recorded for Kinetic Text.
So I'm going to go ahead and set up for Kinetic Text. So I'm just going to create another text layer. Doesn't matter where it's located. The font right here doesn't matter. But I'm going to click and I'm going to type in 4. I'm going to click away, make another one, Kinetic, and text. So I now have 4 Kinetic text. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pre-composition those. So I'm going to select all of them, right click, and pre-compose. What that'll do is it'll put it into another composition on its own, so that now I'm not overloading After Effects. I can put them in this comp. And I'm just going to title it exactly the words that are going into it, so I know where I am in my audio at any given point. So I'm going to type in for Kinetic Text, tell it OK. And now I have this for Kinetic Text in this pre-composition, and I'm just going to move it to where that 4 starts. So when I scrub through, it's not popping up under this is some audio that I recorded. It's popping up where 4 Kinetic Text starts. So now I would want to dive into that 4 Kinetic Text after I've set up all of my pre-comps. So you're going to get your timeline with all where your words are. You're going to type them all out in individual text. Doesn't really matter where they are in there, but so long as you can reach them. I would recommend pre-comping them. If you're going to do individual words doing specific things, you could leave those alone. But if you're going to do, like, for instance, for Kinetic Text as one little section, I recommend pre-comping those together and moving them to where they start. So I'm going to dive into this for Kinetic Text. I now have 4 Kinetic Text. I'm going to move them to where I would like them to be. So I have 4. Maybe Kinetic's going to be here in the middle. Text will be at the bottom. Oh, maybe I'll do something a little bit funky like this. From here, once I get them where I want them, I'm going to move my 4 Kinetic text to where they would be located in my wave file. Now that might mean here, before I pre-comped them. Maybe I went ahead and shifted them down like this, lined them up here, and then pre-comped. Or, and then shift down, or inside of here, because now they're way far in the back. I need them to actually be at the very beginning, otherwise they're not going to come in on time. And I can do this. Or you can bring your wave file into here, line it up with where they would be, and then shift it over, whichever works best for you. I'm then going to take all my words, move them to where I want them to be, for Kinetic text. I'm now going to change them to how I think they should look. So if I needed to take this, maybe I don't want them to have a stroke. Maybe I want them to be full pink. Maybe I don't even want them to be pink anymore. Maybe I want them to be like a blue, or maybe that white to match the others. Maybe I want them to have a dark blue stroke to set them apart a little bit. Maybe I'm going to change the tone of my overall clip starting from here. We want to change anything we're going to change about our Kinetic text at this point. we're also going to decide how is our text going to come in when they're in this pre-comp. Now remember, if you are going to have them as a one, like maybe 4 is by itself or Kinetic's by itself, it's going to do something funky. Maybe you're going to put a preset on Kinetic to make it do something a little bit more movement based. You would want this one to be by itself in here to do that, but you still want to figure out how it's coming on and off the screen. For me, for this example, I'm actually just going to keyframe 4 to start or be fully visible at about maybe here, about a couple frames in. So I'm going to open this up, go into my transform. You can also hit P on the keyboard for position, just keyframe that position right there. But I want it to start off screen. So maybe I'm going to have it way over here. So it's going to zoom in. I'm going to do the same thing for Kinetic. Click my Kinetic layer, hit P for position, keyframe my position to right here, go to the beginning, move that off screen, maybe move it a little closer. On my third one, same thing, hitting P on the keyboard, want text to come in about here, move my position so that it's off screen, zips in. So when I hit play, they pop in. Now, when I come back over to my Kinetic main, anything that I do inside of a pre-comp will automatically generate in the main composition. So now when I hit play.
This is some audio that I recorded for Kinetic text.
Now the problem is that I recorded isn't leaving the screen when for Kinetic text comes in. So from here, since I know recorded's animation stops about here, I can keyframe the position of this one to end here. And then maybe like by the time 4 is halfway, that I recorded has moved down.
This is some audio that I recorded for Kinetic text.
So it's out of the way. This is the very basic version of Project 3, the final. So how you're going to do this is you're going to use keyframes and pre-comps, presets that have been changed from default. I recommend making small segments of your audio, make sure they're timed correctly, make sure you get all of your wordage in the right positions. Don't let the timing of the audio be the only focus. You still want to work on the visuals, which we'll talk about in a moment. Make sure each section is pre-comped as needed or not needed. Figure out how everything's going to come in and off screen, and then figure out how you want each pre-comp to act. Do you want them to fade in and out? Do you want them to just move? Do you want them to go off with a preset? How do you want them to interact? Any questions? I know I didn't have you guys follow along with this. I just kind of wanted it to be a demo, but do you guys have any questions over this process before I show you what the final is, when it's due, and some examples?
So are we picking our own sound?
You may pick your own song, audio clip, etc.
All right. Cool.
Yeah, this is just my demo. And again, I'm not discouraging you guys from picking music. Music like does work in here, but if you are going to pick a song, just let me know beforehand so we can figure out feasibility.
How long does it have to be?
30 to 60 seconds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So let's take a look at the final. What's that? Where is this? All right. So ignore the red text for just a moment. So what is the final? It's actually that Kinetic typography, the same thing that we just looked at. What I want you to do is secure an audio clip of dialogue that's 30 seconds, but no longer than 60. It can be recorded from a song, movie, YouTube personality, whatever you like. Just be aware that it's the full talking point has to be 30 to 60 seconds. The examples will show that a little bit. In After Effects, I want you to sync your text to your audio track and create a kinetic motion to your type, just like what we've done here in class today. Now you must incorporate one of the following throughout the whole video. So you must have a graphic element or design. This could be picture. This could be little memes. This could be emojis. It could be like that waveform that I have here. Maybe by the next one, I would change it to a slightly different type of waveform, or maybe a different background with a different wave. You can also use a video. You can make still images based off like what we did with Project 2. You may include all of them, but I must see at least one throughout the whole video. You'll get kind of what I mean when I show you the examples. Add additional music if you need it. If you're doing a monologue, or maybe you're recording yourself saying something and you want to add a little bit of music to it, that's perfectly fine. And then make sure you render out your sequence as an H.264 MP4 with your name, Kinetic text, Project 3, all that good stuff. Turn it into Dropbox. If it won't let you, as a Google Drive link, if it won't let you do the MP4. And that's it. That's all I'm looking for. It's very open-ended, right? Now, the most important part is when is it due? So it's the final, so it is due finals week, which does give you a good 2.5-ish, 3-ish weeks to work on this. The reason I give you so long is because if you do this correctly, it'll take a while. It shouldn't be able to be done properly and get a good grade overnight. That is not a challenge. Do not do that. Everyone that's tried that has failed. I will say, if you're one of those people that are like, I really don't have time in my day to work on both this, game design, math, blah, 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 English, I have to write 10-page papers every other week. If you work every day during class time, like right now, to work on this, you shouldn't have problems not completing it outside of class. Now, if you're like, oh, sweet, that means I don't have to come to class, but I can work on it in my free time. If you come to me the day before the final and are like, hey, so game design was real difficult, I'm going to be like, cool, it's due tomorrow. You better not sleep. Don't do that. Work on it during class. You won't have any problems. So, because we're a digital media class, our classes are longer than normal people's classes. You guys have 2 time slots that you can pick for the final. And I leave it up to a vote. So, either in the chat or you can use the little wave hand thing. Who would rather have their final on Tuesday, May 4th at 8 a.m., earlier in the week, earlier in the day, or Thursday at 1:20, so later in the finals week, later in the day? I leave it up to you. So go ahead if you want to vote for Tuesday. You can say Tuesday in the chat, or give me a little wavy hand. So Liam can only do Tuesday.
Let me see what my other classes have scheduled, and then I can get back.
So how finals week works on campus is you will never have a confliction finals base-wise. So these dates, these times are always scheduled for this class.
Okay.
Yes. So Tuesday?
Tuesday's
Either
good.
day is fine to me, so whatever everybody decides is fine.
Okay.
I like Thursday because it gives me 2 extra days to procrastinate.
I mean, I
funny.
agree with that too, but also like if it doesn't work for, so, yeah, it's
Yeah.
whatever. I don't care either way.
Same.
I mean, we get like 3 weeks, so.
Yeah, Tuesday's fine.
3 weeks to procrastinate.
Yes. So far,
Woo!
Tuesdays have it.
I'll go Tuesday.
Who wants Thursday? So I got 9, I think, for Tuesday. Who wanted Thursday?
Not me anymore. I'm conform.
Okay. I'm not hearing any Thursdays, so we shall go with Tuesday.
Tuesday's fine. I'll suffer regardless.
Alrighty. Now, so y'all have chosen Tuesday at 8. I will get this updated on D2L for you. Now, because you guys have chosen your day as Tuesday the 4th at 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., I have it written on this beautiful piece of paper twice. I also have this thing on there that if you ask me when it's due, I will send you a random GIF. That is because this is going to be on D2L. It's also going to be the exact time when Dropbox says it's due, because I will change that. I think currently it's December, so that you guys cannot submit 3 months early. So should you email me like the week before finals and you're like, hey, when's it due? I'm just going to reply with something interesting or weird. It's just going to be a GIF. I don't know what it's going to be. I have a large repertoire. Every year it gets bigger. So, questions at all about the final before I show you some examples? Okay. Now, also before I show you these examples, I have to turn off my screen record because YouTube yells at me. So every time I do this, I have to turn it off. So be aware. If you need more examples, maybe like Thursday comes and you're like, I'm still not having any ideas, you have other examples, pop in, I'll show you some more. I'll show you some of the ones we've seen today. That sort of thing, since I can't put them in the recording. So I'm going to pause this. Any questions?
Wait, so that person used that was on one thing, like one clip,
Yes.
one background, I mean? Like it was no transition to another video?
Nope.
Oh, that was smooth then.
Mhm.
How?
That's
Okay.
definitely something you guys can do as well.
I don't know how I could do anything that cool of any of those.
Oh, you can. You can, trust me. So does anyone have questions just about the final in general?
Can it be over a minute?
Yes, just run it by me first.
Cool.
I've had a whole bunch of people been like, hey, my clip is like 1 minute, 10 seconds. Is that fine? So long as I know the clip and you've told me before I see it, you're good.
Cool beans.
So yeah, so if you find something, like I know someone in my other class is going to do a monologue from a movie. She's like, I just timed it. It's like 1 minute and 10 seconds or like 1 minute and 20 seconds. I was like, if you think you can do it, I approve it. So just, run it past me first. Same if you're going to do music again, run it past me. I probably won't tell you no. Any other questions?
I thought about doing some type of poem. I don't know how to ask. I guess should I just like send the recording to you at some point? Once
So if you're gonna
once I record it.
So if you're going to record it yourself, you won't have to run it past me.
Okay, because I just didn't want to go over time.
No, you should be fine. At most, if after you record it, you're like, hey, it's like 1 minute, 30 seconds. Just let me know first, and we can talk about it.
All right, cool.
So the only other thing on my list of things I wanted to talk to you guys about today is the SAIs are available for you guys to fill out. I highly recommend you filling them out, not just for my own benefit, but for all the other instructors' benefits as well. Pretty much it's you guys like telling us what we're doing wrong, what we're doing good, so we can improve and keep things that we're doing well in our classes. So if you're like, man, this one teacher does this thing that like, it just makes my brain hurt, let them know. If you're like, hey, I have this teacher who does this really cool thing, let them know. It really does help out, specifically with me. I've implemented pretty much every change students have told me about in my SAIs so that I can try to make the next class even better for other people. Takes like 2 minutes. It's a whole bunch of questions like, hey, how's this teacher doing? Hey, is this teacher prepared? That sort of thing. Takes no effort at all. And I won't hear about it till like 4 weeks after the semester's over. So it will not impact your grade whatsoever. So if you're like, man, they're gonna know it's me, don't worry, I won't know it's you. They're very anonymous. Now, last chance for questions.
So would the remaining class time be lab work essentially, like workshops?
Yes.
Okay.
I will say, till the end of the semester, or at least till finals week, I will be taking attendance only on Tuesdays. So the 20th, I'll be taking attendance. 27th, I'll be taking attendance. Those are just going to be really quick days. Show up at the beginning. I'm going to ask you what you're doing. I'm going to ask you what you've got done. I might have you share your screen so we can all look at it. it's going to take no less than maybe 20, 30 minutes for the class. And then the rest of that time is for you. And then, like I said, so long as you're working in class each day, you really shouldn't have to worry about out of class time. And I'll always be on the Zoom. I will say I'm getting my second shot on the 19th, and the first one kind of knocked me on my butt. So if for some reason you get an email on the 19th being like class is canceled tomorrow, I'll just see you guys on Thursday instead of Tuesday.
Do we have class Thursday?
Yes, I will not be taking attendance Thursday. It'll be a lab day this Thursday. And then just in case you guys don't know, there's no classes at all tomorrow on campus. So if you're like, oh gosh, I've had something like I needed to do tomorrow. I know you guys aren't technically in my Monday, Wednesday, Friday class, but in case someone doesn't know, there's no classes tomorrow. But all right, the rest of class today is for you. You may stay, you may go. I'll be around.
Have a good day.
See you.
Yes,
So
have a
all
good day.